All right, VHS is of course, 2012 horror film, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, and it features a series of found footage short films written and directed by a variety of people. There's a bunch of names. I had never heard of any of them, but Adam Weingard, David Bruckner, Ty West, Glenn McQuaid, John Swainberg, and then there was a directing quartet known as Radio Silence. Basically, the film is an anthology of short stories, all of which feature found footage, and each individual tape is framed by a story that follows a team of masked criminals that are sent into an unknown person's house to retrieve a VHS tape. Between the shorts were shown some brief glimpses of those characters as they're looking for the tape. The individual stories, though, that sit within it are called Amateur Night, Second Honeymoon, Tuesday the 17th, The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger, and 10/31/98. So it's a different kind of found footage film than I think any of us have seen before. Usually it's one long story from beginning to end, but this one's broken up into these little vignettes, all of them directed by and written by different people. So I'm kind of curious, guys, because this does take such a different tack than the previous ones we've done. What do you think about it as far as that short story vignette version versus a long arcing story?
It's been a while since we've seen a movie shot in this style. It kind of reminded me of Creepshow and what was it? Amazing Stories or something years ago?
They did Tales from the Dark Side. Did a movie?
Tales from the Dark Side did one too. Yeah, and it was all right. It was some of the couple of the stories I thought themselves were the smaller, the smaller vignettes. I thought they were actually pretty good. Almost would rather see a more expanded version of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I want to sit through an hour and a half of one of those stories, but I would maybe like to see more.
Like maybe instead of, was it 5 Encompass stories, you actually just had 4 and they were fleshed out a little bit more kind of thing?
I would even say maybe 3. Two maybe a little bit too few, but yeah, probably 3 I think would probably be good. I think they could have fleshed out some of those stories and made them just a little bit better. But like I say, a couple of those were I thought were pretty good.
Well, it's real hard because I can't explain my biggest problem with the movie without spoiling it, so I won't do that. But with any anthology, and Justin, you're a writer, so you can tell me if you agree with me or not. But when you have a story that surrounds the inclusive stories, you really have to have a solid framework. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. If that's going to be your device, that device really needs to work. And right. I think for the course of the movie, from the beginning to the middle, that framework works very well. It's basically, the guys break into a house and they start watching videotapes and they see, different stories. But how that framework ends did not work for me at all, and it kind of took away from the movie for a specific reason. It's
kind of a nondescript ending in the last third of the movie. It opens it up. It's kind of like an incomplete bookend or something.
Yeah, it felt like it was building it up, and then it just kind of ended. Right. And we're going to be very careful because we don't want to spoil it, obviously. A lot of horror movies are based on surprise. But the way that it ended really detracted from the rest of it because it made it hard to really buy into the story as a whole. I did like some of the stories. I thought some of them were very clever. I like the party guys pick up the wrong girl story, and then party guys pick up the wrong house story. I mean, those were kind of clever. There's some really odd ones. There's one where a girl's being attacked by an unseen force that just goes in a really weird direction. Just really weird. But really overall, the story worked fine for me until you got to the ending. And that's where it just really lost me. Because any anthology, some of the stories are going to work, some of them are not going to work.
Right.
But you have to have that framework in place that's solid. Just like Creepshow is a great example. Creepshow, not all of those stories work, but the framework was great. You know what I mean? So that's really where the story itself kind of hurt for me.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I'm one of those guys that likes a bit more understanding to what he's watching, and really that opening kind of bookending story of this tape 56 that these guys are looking for in this house. You have no idea who they are, why are they looking for it, who asked them to look for it. And so while they're looking for it and a member of their team is watching films on this television, weird things are happening in between these shorts, and you don't understand what's going on or why. And so while each of the individual vignettes are kind of have closure to each of them, the main bookending thing doesn't. And you get to the end of it, and you're left just as perplexed as you were going into it. But I did like several of the short films. In fact, I think there was only 3 of them I liked quite a bit. Though the last one, you really get a feeling that they saved most of their budget for the CG to go in that one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because there's quite a bit of it.
And what was fun is, I will say this before we get into it, because I know we have more to go into, but we all watched this movie together. So, I mean, from different areas, but we all watched the movie together. And it was really, really fun to watch, I thought, even though some of the movie isn't that good, and some of it is really good, some of it is not really good. It was really fun to watch as a group. So I think it'd be a fun movie to go and check out with your buddies or watch on the couch with your friends. You might not love it when you leave, but I think you'll get a lot of good times from it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, probably some good Mystery Science Theater 3000 action.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this is it very much has the feel of an indie movie. So what did you guys think of the acting? Did anybody blow you away, or were you mostly pleased, mostly displeased?
The one that stood out to me the most is the girl in the first little vignette, the first little short.
I like you.
I like you.
I like you.
I mean, she was creepy looking.
Yeah,
from the very first moment you see her, you know there's some freaky shit going on with this girl.
Yeah.
And she was she was believable in the sense of this, in the world of this movie. And also I thought in the second story with the couple that's on a vacation or they're traveling or what have you.
Second honeymoon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought they did a really good job. They were, they were both believable in their roles. And
I liked her more than him.
Yeah, I liked her quite a bit. I felt the acting was very much just like acting class. You've got a bunch of acting students. They're not professional actors. You can tell. Some I could see some real potential, like Brian's talking about with this girl, and some of them should just start applying at car dealerships because it just ain't going to happen, man.
Don't give up that job at Chili's.
Yeah. It's just like any found footage movie, though. I mean, the ones that need to make it work pretty much made it work.
True. Yeah. Now, this film is called VHS, so this very much bears somewhat the cross of VHS tapes in the look of them. This is not going to be a showcase film for you to put in your Blu-ray player to wow all your friends. It's a rough looking film, and I think a lot of that's on purpose. Did that work for you at all, or are we now just so used to beautiful movies that anything with some hiss and ghosting and whatnot just unacceptable?
Aaron, I'll let you take this one because I might be a minute.
Okay. I think it's a low budget movie all the way, but I mean, like the catering was McDonald's low budget. I mean, it's low budget.
But like the catering was the director's mother.
Yeah. But I respect what they tried to do. I mean, they obviously had a small budget. They're not rich. They're trying to do an anthology with different directors. The one thing that I will say is, even though it was different directors, I would say that most of the styles were very similar. I didn't see like a lot of distinct differences where even if I knew their names, this one is so drastically different from that one. It's all a lot of found footage, shaky cam BS, and I didn't see a whole lot that really stood out from the next one or the next one. But I did think there's a lot of clever ideas in the film and how they incorporated them. You can obviously tell these are people that are trying to make the most out of what they have. And like Justin said, only one story had a real budget. The rest of them, you and I and we all three of us could probably pay for this movie if we really pooled our resources.
Yep.
And shot it with our iPhones.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian. Please lament.
I agree with a lot of that, and I do respect the fact that I'm sure the budget was minimal, and when you're doing these types of movies, you have to make do with everything that you that you can, and it's really like guerrilla movie making. But please, for God's sakes, minimize the freaking shaky cam. Honestly, I'm so glad I didn't watch this on a big screen, because it really, that first story would have made me nauseous.
I will say that's where Paranormal Activity has it down, because they figured out how to have a static camera for most of the movie and only use the shaky cam when absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. And again, I don't mind the quote unquote found footage stuff. Depending on the movie, it's a very good, it works a lot. So I don't mind that. I don't mind a little bit of quote unquote realism where somebody grabs a camera. Okay, we're filming, but I think that you can do that for the first few minutes just to establish the fact that somebody's carrying it around. And I think you can, after probably 5 or 10 minutes, you can say, okay, we're using tripods and whatever at this point, and steady cams, so that we can have a decent looking film. There's no way I will go see this in a movie theater.
I understand.
All right, well, I guess that brings us into our final point to talk about. Final verdict, 1 out of 10. Any ending thoughts on it, Brian?
Again, the shaky super zoom cam stuff was way too annoying.
Super zoom?
Yeah, I mean, there was just way too much very close camera shots in it where you can't see anything going. You hear all this stuff going on, but you're looking at somebody's nostril.
Right.
Screw that. All of the scary scenes are in the preview, and that preview is one of the best trailers I've seen all year. Mm-hmm. It is very scary looking. But there's not many more. There's not many surprise. I don't know. When you see those, they're kind of all done. Most of them are really kind of done into one story. But I don't know. For the most part, I did not enjoy this movie. There was some good things about it. I'm giving it a 4.
Oh, you really didn't enjoy it then.
I absolutely. Yeah, I'll just say that I just didn't enjoy it.
Okay, well,
Aaron, what about you?
I love horror movies. That's probably one of my top 2 favorite genres, especially if they're well done. And low-budget movies, unfortunately, are really a part of the horror genre, because not as many people go see them as they do mainstream films. This one is very low budget, and it's definitely riding the coattails of that whole found footage formula, which I know Justin loves. Mm-hmm. I just think it's missing in several spots, but overall, I really like some of the more clever ideas the movie tried. I thought it was interesting, and even when it was stupid, it was still fun to watch. And I would watch it again with friends. I don't know if I would go out by myself to see it in a theater, because I don't think it's worth it. But unfortunately, that ending really kicked it down for me. Where if the ending even if it would have been a lame ending, it would have done more because it had an ending.
If it would have had an ending, right?
Yeah. So to me, the most important, this is me personally, my personal opinion, the most important part of a solid horror flick is nailing that ending, because everything builds up in a horror movie to the ending, how it concludes. And if you don't get that right, you're doing the movie a disservice. And that's the one thing where I think the film dropped the ball. So if $10 is the full price, I give it 5.5. I would have been a little higher, but the ending.
I like the movie well enough. I think that there were some interesting things that they did in several of the short stories that I would like to maybe see future films use to a greater extent, and kind of take those ideas and run with them a bit more than they were able to do with this film. It was very rough looking, and I am a bit pampered with my visuals these days, so it was kind of hard on the eyes. All in all, though, I think I enjoyed it much more because I had you guys to chat with during it. Aww. I think if I had watched it, we were all just having a good time. But if I was watching it on my own, I probably would have left it a bit more disappointed than I did. But I had fun with you guys, so it wasn't a wasted evening. But yeah, 1 out of 10, I'd probably give it a 5. Maybe a 6 if I'm watching it with some friends and we can kind of skewer it, while we're watching it. But yeah, I'd probably give it a 5. Yeah. It could have been better if they had worked a little more to have the bookending story work better and actually end the movie, like you said.